We can't hear you, Mark.
Yeah, I haven't heard a thing since the music.
You know, it works a hell of a lot better when I turn the phone off.
Communicator of the year. Communicator of the year. I love it. Muzzle tov. Congratulations.
Oh, baby.
I had to turn the microphone off because I had to sniffle during the video. And if I don't turn the stupid microphone off, God, I hate when that happens.
I'm sure it was a graceful introduction.
To make fun of me, too. At least you stuck around for a while. But
That's all good now.
This is one of those weeks, guys.
All good things go wrong sometimes, don't they? It was tickety-bitty threw me out, and now I can't hear a thing.
You can hear us, right, Dave?
Is deaf.
Hello?
We can hear you.
I've got no sound at all now.
Oh, this is fun.
Communicator of the year. This is incredible.
But it looked well.
How's that?
Yeah, that's my.
You can hear me. I can't hear anything here.
Dave, you guys
this
are
is not
just
working.
fine, right?
Everything was tickety-bee. Just 5 shakes, a stick ago, kick me out.
Hello, Lou, Sam, you guys are hearing, right?
Yeah.
Never mind. I've
Actually,
got an
I'm fine with it
old-fashioned here.
this way. If Dave just wants to
Congratulations
keep talking,
to Mark.
That's working.
This is going to be
well.
so much fun.
I'm going to leave.
Dave, we're going to refresh your browser and we'll try this again, okay? So, in case you hadn't guessed. Yeah, I really deserved that Communicator of the Year award.
Congrats.
It's for the words, guys, not the button punching, unfortunately. I've got a button down here to turn the microphone on.
It's working really well again.
When it's red, it's on.
You're a great communicator about communication.
Yeah.
I just think I poured my first glass of the day about 10 minutes ago.
Oh.
That's the
No
problem.
excuse.
Yeah, nice to know you guys have an excuse. I mean, let's introduce everybody. First of all, the Natalie-dressed Sam Simmons down in the lower left-hand corner. Udo Sonntag joining us from Germany tonight, and our pal Lew Bryson joining us from somewhere in Pennsylvania. In the middle of Pennsylvania. And
I'm in the team, baby, right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it. Home of the world-famous Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
Oh, yeah.
What did they do this time, Lou? I heard about a Talisker 25 pricing bit you posted the other day.
They put Talisker 25 on clearance, for the love of God. Chopped $120 off the price because, you know, they don't want it in the warehouse, so sell it.
What'd they knock it down to?
I'm going to say like $300.
Damn, that's almost reasonable.
And a list is $425, I think. So,
but you guys both remember when it was $125 at Warehouse Wines in New York City, and we're at places that would discount it. Like, that's times have changed, us old guys.
Dave, you're hearing us now, right?
Yeah, I'm back this time. God knows what happened there.
There he is.
Never normally have a problem with StreamYard, but this time just disappeared. All sound completely. But anyway, we're back.
Oh, let's take a look and see what the comments are somewhere here. Oh, yeah. Let's see. This is what we call the dark side of the moon from Nurse Dave's Shaving World. Yeah, Pete had going to be a silent night. Yeah. Well, Debbie Soda's glad to see you're here, Lou. Chris Ratcliffe going to be two-fisting it tonight, starting with us in one window and a Sagamore Spirit tasting in the other, and he needs to get to Baltimore, and yes, you do, Chris. You definitely need to get. And Nurse Dave, yes, check one. Yes, it's working now. Yeah. Chris, so eloquent. Yes, I'll pay. Yeah, Tor Christensen, nice to see the pros mess up. Yes, this is what happens when you do things live, guys. So, Udo, let's talk about your book, because you actually got to sit down with Jim McEwan and get the whole unvarnished story. And I want to take you full screen because you actually got the book today. Show us this thing.
Show them the size of that thing.
I'm quite proud to present this little tiny book, which is brand new. It's just a few hours ago. I picked it from the warehouse, and you can't imagine how that feeling was to enter the warehouse and suddenly there's a pallet full of your books, and you know that there are much more behind. All in all, there were 13 big pallets with this little book, and that's the result of the last year. The Journeyman's Journey, it's called, and it'll be released in April 8th this year in German version. The English version is still in progress. There is no fixed release date yet, but you can pre-order it by now on a website. May I tell that?
Of course.
Of course. You find it just
me the website, so I could have had it in the graphic.
Okay.
It's okay. Go ahead.
It's jimsbiography.com, and quite easy to remember. Yes. The guys in the publishing company did a great job, and it was a real pleasure. And but the bigger pleasure, actually.
Jimsbiography.com. You're serious,
That's
right?
A great URL.
Jimsbiography.com.
That wasn't taken by somebody else? Good.
Yeah, the Henson. Exactly. The Henson estate is after you.
But,
please go ahead, Udo. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
But the title of the book is A Journeyman's Journey, and I think the journey is the right way to describe the last year. Because I have never written a book before, and this came to me, let's say, by accident. I would say. Jim would say there aren't no accidents at all, and
we had one.
Pardon me?
At the start of this thing, we sure had an accident.
Incident. Coincident.
Well, there's another word I could use for it, but I won't use that word on a stream.
Okay, but yeah, and so it was really, let's say, a sort of big working together, which wasn't meant to be. The pure intention of the book was that I had Jim McEwan in the show here over in Germany in the old castle in a festival called the Celtic Castle. And there was also Greg Swartz you had recently in your show with the film The Water of Life. And it was the premiere in Germany. And Greg came over and Jim came over. And that was a kind of, let's say, dream come true. And after the show, we were having lunch the next day, and Jim and I were sitting on a big table, and he asked me how I got to whiskey, and I said, well, it was a roll of coincidences. There we have the word. And he said, no, there aren't no coincidences at all, and you will see someday you're gonna be, well, you're gonna have a huge audience. And I said, well, Jim, that's fine. I do appreciate what you say about me, but believe it or not, the other day, the day after, the publishing company wrote to me a mail and invited me to do a book about Jim. And as I said, I've never written a book before, and I was thinking, and well, do it or leave it. And I said, okay, let's do it. But I thought, I don't want to write a book about Jim. I would like to write a book with Jim. And so I made it to Isla and wanted to ask him, because when a book about Jim, then he should be in the boat. And we were sitting in his living room, and Barbara had cooked a wonderful meal. And it was like doing a proposal, actually. And I think it was a wee bit like like Jim was asked for coming over to Bruichladdich. He didn't really think of it. I asked him, well, could you imagine? And he didn't think of it. He said, well, the answer is yes. let's go for it. And so out of the idea of collecting some stories about Jim, it has become the autobiography. And we spent a whole year together in Zoom conferences and WhatsApp video calls and stuff like that. And we spent hours and hours and hours, and we literally went through his whole life. And his life is full of so pure emotion. And so the challenge was to put all this pure emotion on paper. And when we finished the writing in end of November, there was suddenly a script there which was quite thick. And then the artwork began, and all in all, what came out is now 528 pages, full of story, full of emotion, as life is. And I think you all know Jim, and he's such an emotional personality, and he's such a great character. And I never expect writing a book, but Jim always used to give people a chance who never did anything before. Like, for example, Adam Hannett. He never did anything with distilling, for example, or like many other people as well. Alan Logan, for example, was a painter when he started in Bruichladdich. And so I'm really quite today in a very well. I'm not sitting on a chair. I'm actually a wee bit flying. I'm really overwhelmed by this.
We have a smart alecky comment from Dave Kuhn. What was the sum total of questions you asked Jim for that many pages? Like 7 or 8? Yeah. We've all interviewed Jim, so we know he can go on. How long did it take? You said hours and hours, and how long? I got to ask, how many hard drives or how much hard drive space did you use to record all these interviews? And do you have it all archived?
Sorry, the last 30 seconds you were away.
How much hard drive space did it take to store all those interviews? And do you have it archived?
I had the audio tracked, and there are quite a few megabytes on it, yes. And thank goodness there are clouds.
Yeah, because I think we've all interviewed Jim. I know you have, Lew. I think you guys probably have too, Sam, Dave. And Chris Ratcliffe points this out, given how Jim can talk, and he's one of the great talkers. If you anybody who saw our webcast with him a few weeks ago can attest to that. How hard was it to actually drag the details and the color of the stories out of him?
Well, you give Jim some keywords, what you would like to speak about, and then you see that Jim jumps on the train, and but where the train ends, you can predict, and that's also a sort of journey, I would say. But that's also the very interesting thing. Well, I've got lots of material, and to figure it out, I have to rehear them and have to sort it out, and then that was a kind of, let's say, dive into a life of Jim. I was a wee bit a part of a family, I would say, and the side effect, which is actually my main profit out of it, is that we really became friends, and that is so much worthy. And there is that Jim everybody knows in the world, and there is that person Jim, and he's such a fine character, and that is really great to. This year is the highlight of my my time in whiskey, and I've been spending time with whiskey for nearly 30 years.
Well, I envy you, because I know that there are probably at least 100 writers around the world who would have given their eye teeth, given anything to be able to write that book. And I'm happy that you got to do it, and I can't wait to read it when it comes out in English. So,
thank you very much.
But Sam, Dave, what have you guys been working on? As our pal Tyrone Cote in Nova Scotia points out, I feel underdressed for tonight's event, given that you two are both dressed up so formally. What have you guys been up to with the Uncorked Whisky Sessions podcast?
Well, we dressed up formally, as I mentioned earlier, in really because you missed your awards dinner because you were announced the global icon of whiskey communicator of the year. And we'd all be dressed up, drinking in a large room in London, normally in the Royal Armouries, and we thought we'd give you that sort of. Yeah, we thought we'd give you the tuxedos tonight, and I even put a bow tie on and tied my beard up so you could actually see. I was going to tuck it.
I was wondering about that, Sam. I do not even want to know what that was we just saw on camera.
My kilt, I think.
That was a beautiful interpretive dance. That's what that was.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if that was kilt or underwear or what, but it was. As Kuhn points out, they really aren't wearing pants.
No, we really aren't wearing pants.
No, and I'm not as good at dressing as I thought I was. It turns out, I was very proud of my top half. Nonetheless, here we are. Well, Dave, we're keeping busy. Mark, thanks for asking. Udo, I don't know how you put together a book like that. That's what an achievement to be able to sit at the feet of Jim. Oh,
is that Pippin, Lew?
Yeah, that's one hell of an achievement there, isn't it? To sit down and have that story told to you, to write it all. That's immense.
Lew, you are muted. We cannot hear you. It's okay, Lew. You can unmute.
He is one of the great.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine. It's a dog-friendly webcast.
All right.
I'm surprised Bader hasn't made an appearance yet. So go ahead, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Udo, I was just going to say, to be able to put together a work like that, first of all, yeah, exactly as Mark said, it's what an honor that Jim chose to do that with you. You should really take that as a read on your character. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But I was also wondering about storytelling. You know, Jim is one of the great whiskey storytellers. He's inspired generations of whiskey nerds since his time at Bowmore and even before, and then through Bruichladdich and through his career now. But having myself heard him tell stories a few times, and there's always, with any great storyteller, they never tell the story the same twice. How hard was it to get to the truth?
Which truth, Sam? Which one?
Deep.
Well, I think you can really point out when he's not telling just stories, but the way he made the journey of his life again. Yeah, I had the experience to get to know a different kind of Jim McEwan. You might know. Well, he's an outstanding storyteller, and I mean it in a very positive way. And but when he tells about his childhood, when he tells about long times ago, he dives in that period, and so there were no different types of story he was telling. He was it wasn't easy. It wasn't difficult to find out the truth because he told the truth the first time. When he told the story a second time, it was exactly the same.
Brilliant.
And the way you should have seen him when he was probably, for example, telling the story about Davy Bell, his big master, his big teacher, his big personality, and you saw these tears in the eyes when we were communicating. And I had the luck to come over to Islay when it was allowed in summer, and I've been with him in Bowmore, and we walked up the Bowmore distillery towards the school. I think you all know this road, School Street, and halfway left there was the house of Davy Bell, for example. And we stepped in the garden, and he was telling the story when Davy Bell was about to leave, when he got his heritage, his tools, and we were standing just right in front of a field, but there used to be the garden shed, and underneath the wood there was the tools. And when you saw Jim telling this story, that was oh, I don't know if you can see it, but I now have goosebumps, and that was so incredible. I mean, we had so many moments like that, and that was, I think, a certain kind of magic in the air. Brilliant. And that was really great. This book actually is a collection of lots of stories of him, but it's not only the some of the well-known stories you might have heard, not of the funny stories. I got to know also to Jim McEwan, who's very sensitive, who's very deep in his thoughts, who's also sort of, let's say, spiritual, and it has become such a deep statement of him as well, which is really something extremely special. And I'm really, is the word proud the right word? I'm not sure. I would say sort of blessed actually to have this experience. And it was very much Jim who allowed that. And sometimes he was a bit really surprised by, did I say that? Did I say that to you? Because there are also some content in it which he has never said anyone before. And,
don't give us any spoilers. We want people to buy the book.
No spoilers. But what I would like to say is, this is in this book there is blood, sweat, and tears. It's life as it is, with ups and with downs, and with full of emotion. And for example, today when I was in the warehouse and I was standing in front of that pallet, I took my mobile and we had a wee video call, and you saw on the other side of the phone, you saw a child waiting for Christmas, for the present, and also you saw a man seeing his life in a book. And when you see Jim McEwan, and I hope you won't be angry to tell, but he's an emotional man, and when you saw a little tear coming out of his eye, that was really a magical moment.
Wow. Chris Ratcliffe says Amazon UK is already saying May 15th release and already waiting on pre-orders. So that's good news. I have not seen it yet on the Amazon US site, so I'll be looking for that. And Dave Kuhn also asks, he knows that Jim is a Springsteen fan. Do you talk about music as much at all in the book, and Jim's love of music?
While I was writing Jim's biography, I bought the audiobook of Bruce Springsteen's biography, which is also quite thick. And I got used to all of this discography, I would tell. And there is one chapter in it, and I don't want to spoil, but it has the title of a Bruce Springsteen song. And Bruce Springsteen is really a huge part of his life, I would say. And so, yeah, that's true. Bruce Springsteen, Jim McEwan is a huge fan. When he left Bruichladdich, he got a big ticket for a live concert of Bruce Springsteen to Glasgow, and he was very upset to go there. And his favorite song, and this I can spoiler, is "The Queen of the Supermarket."
Wow!
And "Working on a Dream." That was our working title, "Working on a Dream," and that fits well.
That is about as an obscure a Springsteen reference as I've ever heard. Is that fair to say, Lew? Pretty much.
Absolutely.
And I live in New Jersey, for crying out loud, and I didn't hear that. I never heard that song.
Oh my God. I've been listening to Springsteen since the late 70s.
So who have you guys had on the podcast recently? Sam, Dave?
Yeah, Uncorked Whisky Sessions. It's been a hell of a beginning of 2021. Dave, we had Glassmates at the beginning of the year, didn't we?
We did have the Glassmates. So that's a group of guys who are sort of discovering whiskey. They're a great bunch of guys, good friends of ours. I miss bumping into them. I miss their stupid faces in real life. But they normally have a gig on a Friday night called Distance Dramming on Instagram, and they've just worked out, or Instagram has just allowed them to put 3 people up at the same time because it's 3 guys, and normally it's 2 guys, and then one has to go away and do the admin while the other one comes in. But now they're all 3 of them on at the same time, which is fun. So they just finished. They were on 8 till 9. Sometimes they go on a little bit longer. So they were our first guests of the year, and that was a lot of fun, a lot of stupidity, a lot of singing from Nigel, doing sound effects for us during the games. What else have we done? We've done an Irish one. We did an Irish whiskey special. Recently, we've got an Australian one about to come because we've just bottled a load of Australian whiskies, and we'll be launching that very, very shortly. A round of 7 single malts and 1 rye that I've just got here on the windowsill here.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because how did you guys find 7 different Australian malts that you could get your hands on? Because I know a lot of the Australian distilleries are doing single casks pretty much only, with the exception of maybe Starward and Lark.
Most of these are little family businesses, husband and wife team, single man, single woman bands. And we were very fortunate in that a lot of these brands knew what we were doing, and jumped at the opportunity to, we'd be up for that.
Do you have any Adams distillery whiskey in there?
We don't have any Adams.
Okay.
No, there's an awful lot of distilleries in Australia these days.
Well, I'm asking because that was the one in Tasmania that had the explosion and fire a few weeks ago. Right. That is being rebuilt, and I was just curious about that because I've tasted their whiskey, and the whiskey is excellent, and one of the distillers that was burned is recovering, but I was just curious about that. So what else have you guys been up to? Besides Sam taking care of his daughters?
Well, I think that's an adventure in itself. You think about it, around the world, it's not easy to get 3 daughters to bed. No, it's not easy to secure Australian whiskey around the world. Oh, yeah, Mark gets it. Mark knows.
Yeah, I got 3 daughters. Yeah.
Daddy of girls. I know. We got the same shirts. I know.
Yep.
But I mean, I guess for about 18 months now, Dave, we've been planning a World Whiskey Series and a Rye Whiskey Series, not just American rye from around the world, an Australian series. And to do that sort of planning has been pretty all-encompassing, I think. Like, we had our shout-out to Toby Cutler, our cask buyer, and, of course, Felix Deere, who flew to Australia, continued relationships with people we had met or he had already met or already knew, visited distilleries, smelled his way through some warehouses, heard the stories, ate the meals, and just had a proper down-home experience. And that human connection really is what resulted in these whiskeys. Bringing them back, having to choose which was going to be most appropriate for a boutique bottling was something the whole team decides, but it's a slow process. Emily has to then design labels. We have to think of how to tell the story with our boutique illustrations. And I mean, Dave, that's really what we've been up to for 4 months now. Yeah. And the next series as well. We're just about to launch the Australian series, but at the same time, we're working in the background for the next series. Before boutique whiskey, just as soon as we bottled it, we released it. But now there's a lot more planning going into it, and let's create a series that will generate a lot of interest in world whiskey, in rye whiskey. I mean, I think last time we speak, we're talking about rye whiskies, where we launched 9 rye whiskies, from an age of 11 months to 5 years, 9 different ryes, some from America, 4 from Europe, 4 or 5 from Europe, German rye, Dutch rye. These take a lot of planning, bringing them all together. All the same time, we've got the Scotch whiskies in the background that we're putting together as well. But we'll try and release
them, a small batch of them at the same time, but also sneaking other ones out from time to time, as we've got a fairly good inventory of Scotch whiskies. But yeah, we're currently working on the next 2 releases. So the next set of releases is almost there now, and then it's the next one. We're working ahead and getting ahead of ourselves, not ahead of ourselves, but planning, which is really cool. Yeah, it's good to be able to know what we're doing. I guess having this time to sit would be, we're stuck. And normally that I'm here, there, and everywhere, and not really knowing everything that's going on. But to be part of that is really cool. Being part of the series and getting the labels together, the stories on the labels, and hearing it all as it's coming together, and seeing how Emily works. Get the black and white pencil sketch, and then it's changed into the color sketch. It's cool. Yeah.
And I apologize for our TTB when they changed the bottle sizes in December. They allowed 700s, but they still don't allow 500s. And I know that's what you bottle most of the boutique whiskeys in. So we still can't get them over here.
No, not in the 500 series. No, I mean, there are some 375s still over here, over in the States, with our distributor, our importer there. But no, the 500s weren't on that list, were they? But they are in wine. So maybe it should be boutique wine. You can have a half-liter wine bottle. Just looking at the list the other day, seeing where we could slot in. But why? Come on, let us in.
Yeah, Lew, what have you been up to lately?
Not a lot, to be honest. Most of my time, a ridiculous amount of my time, was taken up trying to get my family vaccinated because of this half-ass system we have in Pennsylvania. I'm really tired of saying those words.
The Liquor Control Board is running it. That's why.
Really tired of saying those words. I know that when they finally legalize marijuana in Pennsylvania, the Liquor Control Board is going to get hold of it, and then it's just going to be.
They're going to keep it all for themselves.
They will keep it. You know what? I figure they're stoned already. So, is that the Cascade Moon you got there?
Yeah, we never did go through. This is the number 2 Cascade Moon edition.
Nice.
Nicole Austin was named Distillery Manager of the Year yesterday in the Icons Awards. So I've been meaning to open this up for a while, so I thought I would open it up. But
that's very good.
She got Distillery Manager of the Year, and I like this one.
Yeah, I haven't opened mine yet. We're supposed to be. That's one of the things I'm working on is getting. I was doing a tasting video series with Sam Kumlenik, the copy editor from Whiskey Advocate, old friend of mine, and unfortunately, Sam has no internet at his house. He lives out in the woods, so we were kind of taping it and doing it, and then COVID got really bad in our area, so we put it on hiatus. So I've been lining up people for that, so for when we get started again. And Nicole's actually going to do a show with us, so we've got about 6 Dickles lined up for that, so that should be good. That'll be fun. Sam actually has one of the old powder horns, apparently one of the first ones, so she's actually kind of excited about that. He's going to send her a sample, and we're going to taste those.
And you've got this other webcast series you do with Marty and Liz, right?
With Marty Duffy and Liz Rhodes, A Sip of Knowledge. We do it every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then it's on, like yours, they're recorded on YouTube. We've been having some fun guests on that. This week we had Andrea Stanley from Valley Malt. And, oh man, Liz got way into the weeds on barley strains. It was cool. Week before that, Liza Weisted was on. We were talking about whiskey writing. And, and then
Dave loves the barley strain. Don't get Dave started on barley strains. Lew,
barley strain. Yeah.
And then Tuesday.
Liz is a barley geek from way back too, so she must have been geeking out over this.
Oh yeah. We were all Well, that's what Liz says. That's what she's there for. She loves getting into the weeds on the technicals, and man, she had a whole series of technical guests. We did distillers, and we haven't had a Cooper on yet. And surprisingly, next week, we've been doing this for almost a year now. next week's going to be our first whiskey bar owner, Polly Watts from the Avenue Pub in New Orleans.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, so that'll be fun.
Cool. By the way, what do you guys have in your glasses? And Sam had to go tend to the fire or the kids or something, or the kids in the fire or something. So what do you guys got in your glasses tonight? Since I already told you what I had. Udo, go first.
I do have one of the Cask Whisperer series, which is
nice.
a 2003 Bruichladdich. And this one is from Jim's private stock, and this was presented at that whiskey festival where Jim came along, and that is really that is a real special drum. Not only because of it's owned by Jim, but this has got beautiful notes, and the softness and the DNA of Bruichladdich comes out, which is really, really great. I enjoyed very much.
I got to taste some of the of Jim's signature collection that he's doing with the Dramfool folks, and those are outstanding whiskeys as well. Lew, what do you got?
I have a 25 Lefroy Cask-Strength 2008.
Oh, nice.
As you can see, it's getting down there. I just found it in the bottom of a cabinet about a month ago and decided it had to go, but lovingly. So I'm slowly working on polishing that off, and it's very good.
I know that Lefroy, we're going to hear from John Campbell and Simon Brooking this coming week about their new 10-year-old sherry cask version. That should be interesting. I can't wait to try that one. Sam has rejoined us now. Sam, what do you got in your glass?
Water?
Water.
No, you know me
water
well
or
enough.
New Make Spirit. I'm not sure which.
Well, which glass is the question? And I know someone already said they're double fisting with another tasting.
Okay,
tonight,
yeah.
but I have a sample of a cask of Bunnahabhain from 1989 that we're considering, and then I have Green Isle Everyday Blended Scotch whiskey.
Cool. Udo, you already mentioned yours. Dave, what have you got?
Well, I started with an old-fashioned when we started, and that was a rye old-fashioned with Distillery 291 rye.
Yes.
It's just a cracking rye, and they won the world's best wheat whiskey, was it, the other day, yesterday? And right now I'm on a Daluan 15-year-old because it's just delicious.
Michael Myers and the guys at Distillery 291 are making some really good stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Really impressed with what they've been doing. Well, I've got another one. I need to get your opinions on this one, and we're going to start some trouble tonight.
Ooh.
What do you think of Two Stacks whiskey in a can?
Oh, I like
this is the Dram in a can, 100 ml can, and we'll hold it up there. Irish whiskey that is actually at 43% ABV, not 40. They gave it a little extra strength, but they're packaging it in cans.
Can you full screen that?
If I change my camera, I can try. Give me a 30. This should be interesting because I've not tried to do this live on the air, but let's give it a try.
For context, if any of the listeners or viewers, there we are. You'll see that it's a Two Stacks. It's whiskey in a can. It's an unusual format. That's why Mark has brought it up for us to discuss this evening.
Thank you.
Are you doing your best wildlife show impression there, Simmons?
in an age of bottled whiskey.
In a world.
One can.
One can if one wants to, yes.
Yes. So, I kind of like this one, actually. Well, they did it because...
Thank you. Udo nails it.
This fits into a 311 airline bag. It fits into the airline toiletries bag. So you can toss one of these in and not necessarily open it on the plane, but if you want to go to your hotel room and not have to crack something at the mini bar, or having to, as H. Chappell says, this could work in a vending machine, or you could toss it in a golf bag.
It's probably a lot easier to juggle, too. Just saying.
Yes, than a 750. You're absolutely right. Look at him go.
You've seen the little drinks pouches in the Indian whiskey. Like the kids' drink pouches that they can stick a straw in the top. Well, they have them with whiskey in India. Yeah.
Well, they have them in London too. There's a hotel in
Whiskey
London that has has a vending machine with the whiskey in a pouch. It's a hotel with a whiskey bar, and they were putting them in the pouch, and they had the vending machine, but you had to go inside the hotel to get the tokens to make the vending machine work.
Yeah, it's a subscription service as well. Before lockdown, it was a great subscription service called Whiskey Me, and it was a way to try things that maybe you wouldn't have discovered otherwise in a low eco. I mean, easy to ship, and you can recycle the packages, I guess was the concept. And I guess this is similar with this can, isn't it? It's a lower. I mean, I guess the emissions when transporting that versus glass would be moderately different. The construction of it's slightly different.
But you can throw this, say, in a backpack if you're camping. If you're going hiking or camping, you can toss this in a backpack. It's not going to break.
Crush it when you're done. Well, yeah.
Actually, I'm joking about that because it's actually a fairly thick metal. It's actually fairly solid.
Does it have a liner of some kind?
Yeah.
My hip flasks are reusable.
No, it's not reusable, but
my hip flasks,
I mean, this is non-traditional as hell, but
even the dog doesn't like it.
Yeah.
No, that's Pippin,
He's
not
so
Baker.
pissed.
But it's actually a fairly decent little blend, I thought. I had my tasting notes for it on the show this week.
Huh.
What's the size of the can, Mark?
100 ml.
100.
So it's double the size of a typical airline bottle.
Wow.
Look,
So,
I think it's very easy to tut and turn our heads and shake our heads at something like this. But anyone that's pushing the category forward should be applauded, at least in the effort.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Well, I gotta admit, I mean, I'm a big fan of the 100 ml Hochstetter, the Slow and Low, the Rock and Rye. I love those things.
Yeah.
I keep them in the fridge, you know?
And I could see a place for this. Like I said, if you're an outdoors type and you want to throw one of these in your backpack. There was a time when I was commuting back and forth to New York from just outside of Philadelphia for work, and I was taking a flask up most nights to drink on the way home from work in the car service coming home, and one of these would have been just as easy as a flask.
Yeah. And like you said, more convenient than the airline bottle.
Yeah, because and this is not to prove any level of strength or anything, but I'm trying to squeeze this thing, and it's not squeezing. I'm serious. It's a solid can. I mean, it's
Here, Mark, and just do that. Just do the curl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as you said, anybody that's trying to push this forward to make it more accessible, I've got no problem with it. I wouldn't put a Talisker 25 in a can, Lou, but PLCB might.
Might.
But again, why not?
I mean, we're seeing that in beer too. You know, anything goes in a can now. You know,
and I'm drinking this now. It's entirely drinkable.
Belgians are in cans. Everything's in a can.
Yeah, I mean, when you can go to the brew pub and get a crowler.
Right. Yeah, just canned right there in front of you.
With the brew pub in town that we have now, we still don't have distilled spirits yet, which is why I can still call it the charming yet regrettably dry town. But we have a brew pub in town. So I've been walking Bader, the Wonder Puppy, in the afternoons, and we have been known to stop by the brew pub in the Grand Scottish tradition for a pint, sitting outside, of course, socially distanced, but Bader sits right by my feet. They bring him a little cup of water so he can sip some water.
Nice.
And I have a little plastic pint cup of one of their homemade beers. And I should point out that the other day, the wind blew my nearly empty cup off the table right in front of the dog, who immediately had his nose all the way into it. He likes beer. We're in trouble.
He went home and wrote a great song, I'm sure.
It was the I'm sorry chorus. But, and as H. Hempel says, I could see these in the bars and limos instead of a decanter. I'm not sure about that. The ballers aren't going to go for it in the can. But I could see that. So what other interesting stuff have you guys tried lately? What interesting whiskey have you guys tried that people ought to know about?
I hold here a bottle in my hand, which I'm really proud of having it. It is 1 out of 3 bottles that is the first edition of the Cape Byron distillery. It was the latest project of Jim doing.
Oh, you SOB! I want to try this.
I can imagine.
I'm kidding, of course, but I'm jealous. I want to try that. I've heard about these guys.
Well, last week I had a big online tasting, and we had the, let's say, the drink track of the Water of Life, and we had Greg in the show, we had Jim in the show, and we had also Eddie Brook in the show from Cape Byron Distillery, and that was the distillery where Jim spent his last project 2 years ago, and he made there the first gin made out of botanicals straight off the rainforest. And then he had that idea of doing also a whiskey. And on the 10th of February this year, this spirit has become whiskey by law because it has the full maturation. And in Australia, as you know, it's only 2 years. And so this was 2 years full. And I had the idea to have the premiere of this whiskey in this event. And Eddie Brook, who runs the distillery, said, well, great idea. And what did he do? He filled the first 3 bottles and sent it over from Australia straight to Germany. And I got a mail saying, well, for heaven's sake, they have arrived. They have arrived in the airport. And in that particular airport, there was an office, and on the door you read customs. And these customs are not really my friends, not really at all.
Oh, we've been there.
These 3 bottles just appeared a few hours before the tasting started, but we had to send away all the samples before. So what we had to do was we had Jim on the show, we had Eddie in the show, and we had Greg in the show who portrayed this, had a huge global come together, and the only person to taste this whiskey was me.
How is it?
The faces who were looking at me trying this, they were so great to watch them. But now we send them along because the customers really were waiting for it. But beside that story, and this is really a story this bottle has to tell, beside that, it is phenomenal how a whiskey with 2 years of age has developed these rich flavors and aromas.
That's amazing.
And that is really, and that's absolutely amazing.
So it's good stuff.
The first whiskey in my old fashioned was just 11 months old. 11 months old, yeah. So yes, great whiskey and young whiskey being made all the time. I mean, the Australian releases are all obviously very young as well. 3, 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds. I think we've got a 2-year-old Killara, which I'm really excited about. It's absolutely delicious. That's one of the ones I've been really blown away with over the last couple of months as we've been putting that series together. The Killara is just stunning.
Is that in the series?
Aye, it is, yeah. 2-year-old Killara, yeah.
Tell Roz, remember me, because she sent samples, and I want to try Killara. Because Christy Lark is doing good stuff at Killara.
Oh, this is amazing. I was just tasting them all again the other day because I've got a tasting to do a little bit later. And I'm trying to put them in the right order so they shine on top of each other. And I just kept going back. This is just 2 years old. Stunning, absolutely stunning stuff. Yeah.
Well, I have to say we were tasting samples that we had received, like, great Scottish distilleries, Mortlach, and some others. We had a Clynelish, or one we couldn't name, but a Clynelish 20-year-old plus. And then Felix Deere came back from Australia and shared some of the samples he brought back from various distilleries. And he didn't just bring one or two. The distillers were very generous and said, what about this? What about this? So he came back with 8 or 9 from each distillery. And I have to say, some of those ones that we tasted, within the context of the same week, having some great 20 plus Scotch whiskeys, these 2, 3, 4-year-old whiskeys from Australia really blew these Scotches out of the water. And that was massively eye-opening to us. We knew we needed to do something about it and release a series. And I think the whole world, we're not seeing Australian whiskey much outside of Australia. And so some of these names we might not recognize now, but take note of them because we will.
I've been saying since the first time I tried Aussie whiskeys in Paris at Whiskey Live, when I finally got to try some Hellier's Road, Tasmania Distillery from Patrick McGuire, and a couple of others that were there for the first time. I've been saying this for a number of years. When these guys get their act together, and not to criticize them, it's just that they're producing such small amounts that they're basically doing single barrels.
Yes,
for a lot of their bottlings. But when they get to producing whiskey in bulk, they are going to do for whiskey what Australian wine did to the wine market, because they are making some good stuff down there.
Yeah, we obviously agree. We're pretty pot committed with the whole series of whiskeys on the theme, but yeah, absolutely. We are bought in.
I was just talking to Dominic Roscoe this afternoon about the Australia series, because it was Dominic who introduced me to Australian whiskey a long, long time ago, and he was hot for Australian whiskey. I'm thinking it's way back into 2013. I think he was introducing me to it at a whiskey festival down in up in Birmingham. And yeah, I just telling him today that we're just about to release our Australian series, and I'm hoping that I can get a set of drams to him, because just for me, really, because he's been a champion for Australian whiskey for a long time, telling us all about it. And particularly, I've only ever been able to bottle one batch before. We had one distillery before. We had 2 batches of Overeem. When Overeem really tried to start pushing into the UK, but yeah, Australian whiskey over here, very, very difficult to get hold of. Starwood have been waving the flag fiercely up until everything shut down here. How hard was it? The only ones
who have any serious level of production where they could export a lot of it.
Right.
It isn't easy to get whiskies from Australian distilleries. And some of these distilleries, one of these was like 4% of their annual production that we took with a couple of casks. Is that right, Sam? They're very, very small production units, but passionate about what they're doing, and that's what we loved about what they were doing.
Amen.
And Greg Swartz, our pal from the Water of Life film, is watching. So hi, Greg, and Udo says hello, Greg. As well.
Hello, Greg.
Whiskey Canuck, a bit of a smart-ass comment. What percentage of the contents of a bottle of typical Australian whiskey is spider? Thanks, Canuck. Yes, Rom. Yeah, we know better. Sam Spears, our pal just up the road from here in New Jersey. I completely agree. Co-worker about Hellier's Road, back from a business trip. Great stuff. And Sam's a good friend of ours, and so I don't think we actually got to anybody else on here. Lew, what have you been trying that you're surprised by, that you want to recommend?
I can't recommend it yet because it's not out yet. I got some pre-production. I'll try and compress this as much as possible. I met this guy when he came down. He was working for a liquor store in Boston at the time. They came down to Dad's Hat, across the river from you, to pick out some single barrels. And I met them there, and we got to talking and just hit it off, and I've stayed in touch with him. He since left the liquor store, did some brand repping, and now he's sourcing and getting ready to bottle his first whiskey. And what he found was 2 whiskeys, Canadian. The one of them is an 80% corn. The other one is a 65% rye. They're both 16 years old. I wasn't crazy about the 80% corn. I thought it was a little heavily oaked, but the 65% rye it's cask strength, and it's been aged the whole 16 years in Hungarian oak. And wow, I got that in a glass, and just every sip just evolved some more. There was so much to it. It had a beautiful creaminess to it on the backside. I'm really looking forward to diving more into that, and hope it'll be out soon. It's the brand is called Found North. I think they're supposed to be launching it in about 2 weeks.
I need to know more about this one because the whiskeys I've tasted that are Hungarian oaked. They make Hungarian oak is sort of like the Gabor sisters. I'm going, damn, that's good stuff. Sorry, I hate to put it in those terms, but
I remember Dave Broom 5 years ago saying, "Yeah, if I had some money, I'd build a cooperage in Hungary."
Yeah.
Well,
Irish Distillers yesterday just announced this latest Method in Madness whiskey that's finished in mulberry wood casks.
Wow.
And I'm waiting for the sample of it to get here because it hasn't arrived yet, but I want to try it. And all I'm thinking is, here we go around the mulberry cask, the mulberry cask, the mulberry cask. So,
Communicator of the year.
Yeah, Sam, what do you got to recommend?
Speaking of Method in Madness, Mark, you just mentioned that, so I'll go there because I discovered Method in Madness bottling maybe 2 years ago that was matured in chestnut, and obviously because of translation from Gaelic, because of translation from Gaelic, the rules in Ireland is that you can mature in wood rather than in oak, which is what we have on the Scottish side of that of things. So we're used to oak flavors in whiskey, most of us in States and in Canada, certainly where I'm from, and in Scotch whiskeys. So playing with chestnut is a whole new thing. And I thought that Method Madness was absolutely beautiful. Of course, the spirit itself was gorgeous, but you could tell there was something else going on. We've been doing experiments with it. I've tasted other distillers that have done it. This is one of our recent ones. You can see from the color, the chestnut was very active. It's called defilement because if you put Scotch whiskey in a chestnut cask, it's no longer Scotch whiskey. So we've therefore defiled that Scotch. But it's an intense flavor, and it's a way to just push new limits and pull new flavors out of the interactive qualities between wood and spirit over time. So that's something new and exciting that I've been trying to pay attention to.
Was that the single grain that they did, or was that the single malt?
I did a single malt and chestnut.
Pardon, Dave?
I say the Middleton did a single malt in chestnut. I think I've got a bottle of it downstairs as well. Yeah.
Yes, I was looking at the Method in Madness, and I'm trying to remember if it was the single grain because I've got a single grain behind me, but I just couldn't. That's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. But the chestnut, I remember tasting that one, and that was outstanding as well.
Aye, superb.
And we have a question here from Dave Kuhn. Anyone in this chat have much experience with Penderyn? Yes, you'll like it. I keep seeing it more and more. Curious at Chris Ratcliffe. Well, Dave, yes. If you see Penderyn, you should try it. It's good.
I have a dog named Penderyn.
I once was a witness of a tasting with Jim Murray, and he was doing a pure Penderyn tasting, and they produce really good stuff.
What they have is a very unusual still as well. It's a vacuum still.
Mm-hmm.
And their new make comes off the still at something like 92% ABV.
It's pretty high. It's pretty high.
And I've tasted the new make at 92%. It was Laura Davies, their distiller, poured it some for me at a Whiskey Live in Paris a few years ago, and I'm going, holy crap. That was good. I mean, it was clean. It was crisp. It was
very light.
Better than any vodka, but it was at 92%.
They've got some copper pot stills there now as well. When I visited last, they were Forsyths were in there installing. That was a long time ago, but they were installing copper pot stills. But they've got 2 Faraday stills, haven't they? Which are these tall column stills.
That's what I'm thinking of. The Faradays, yeah.
Faraday stills, and then they've got. The last time I visited, they had a pair of pot stills, but they are building 2 new distilleries, from what I understand.
Yeah.
2 small distilleries. Yeah, 2 small distilleries because they can't expand the current site, and they've expanded into 2 extra smaller distilleries in industrial sites, well, from what I see. So they're
and what they're trying to do is spread out around Wales and try to bring some of the tourist infrastructure around Wales and to build up the economies there as well.
All right. Yeah, we bottled some Penderyn. We bottled what was that?
Madeira.
Was it a Madeira? It was a Madeira cask, which is their signature Madeira. Yeah.
Sam Spears recommends Stolen Wolf in Lititz, Pennsylvania, and I can second that. Rest in peace, Dick Stoll. I know, Lew, you'll join me in that one there, but Dick was one of the great distillers of all time in the States. And I know you
almost
spent more time with him than I did.
Unfortunately.
So I'm going to start some more trouble here because we talked about the Whiskey Magazine Icons Awards, and yes, I am grateful and humbled beyond belief because I truly do not deserve Communicator of the Year, but I'll take it.
Oh, I think you do for what you've been doing with these shows.
Thank you. After the Hall of Fame announcements came out, I got an email from someone whose name shall go unmentioned, lamenting the lack of women in Whiskey Magazine's Hall of Fame. And to be fair, let's get two things out of the way here. First of all, Whiskey Magazine's Hall of Fame is essentially their rebranded Lifetime Achievement Awards. So it's not as though they're actually going back and searching out historic people from the past to honor in the Hall of Fame. But this person pointed out that there are 73 inductees into Whiskey Magazine's Hall of Fame now, since I think 2006 or so. And only 5 of them are women. And we can show you the 5 women. Helen Mulholland was the first in 2018 from Bushmills. Rachel Berry and Angela D'Orazio in 2019. Maureen Robinson, the great Diageo Master Blender in 2019 also with Angela. And Peggy No Stevens in 2020. And I'm curious with you guys, is it fair when you've got 73 inductees into this thing over the past 15 years, only in the past 3 or 4 years have we seen women even make this thing, but except for this year's class, which was, and I'm going to struggle here now, Fred No, Andrew Symington, Billy Walker, Brendan Buckley, and I am whiffing on the 5th one.
Andy Watts from South Africa.
And Andy Watts, yes, in South Africa. This year, there was the first year since 2018 where there have been no women inductees.
Let's not ignore one thing there, if you don't mind. I'm happy to be controversial.
Please. I want to address this point just to get it out.
I think it's great. I think it's really important for 5 white men to talk about this. So, look, you just mentioned the 5 nominees from last night. These are the 5 recipients of the award from different parts of the world. We should at least celebrate that there's different parts of the world that are finally being represented in these awards. Remember, 10 years ago, it was Scotch and Scotch only, maybe a bit of American. Then it was a bit of Japanese. Canadian is an oddity that's going to sell a bunch of Bibles. And, so it's still the old hegemonic order remains intact. The other thing I would say is what are the qualifications for entering the Hall of Fame? The qualifications are a massive contribution to a category, usually, are they not? Or having people who will take the time to go online and vote for you.
Well, there's no voting here. It's the Whiskey Magazine editorial staff and essentially Damian Riley Smith, their publisher, who makes the final call.
Right. Well, we know that there is that sort of bias already, that we tend to nominate people or to celebrate people who look or act like us or from similar backgrounds. So that's maybe one fundamental problem there. But the other thing is, I think women's work in whiskey isn't done. We're at the beginning. Yeah. So we're at the beginning of a massive contribution that's going to change not just whiskey, but politics and all sorts of categories, because finally we're listening. Bunch of bullish men who haven't and have been patting each other on the back in clubs for a long time are finally stepping back and saying, "Oh, I didn't even think about it. I'm sorry for interrupting you." And I think that's something to acknowledge, is that we've all got something to apologize for, whether we've actively taken part in this or not. And if we step back, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And there'll be plenty of redress of the balance in women in the Hall of Fame.
And let's answer Dave Kuhn's comment here. Hard to believe Bessie Williamson isn't one. That's because this award originally started out as a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2006 or so for people who were active in the industry at that time. And Bessie had been long gone by that time. So this is not a Hall of Fame like the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, for instance, where they did go back and induct people from historical times. So
yeah, that's right.
Basically,
Absolutely.
You've still got to be alive to accept the award in this case.
And let's also not forget, if you don't mind, that if I just continue just quickly,
go ahead.
In the regular categories, because I'm really passionate about this area.
I didn't mean to mansplain you there, Sam.
No, well, I don't know who that term offends me, Mark.
Oh yeah.
But let's not forget, we already mentioned Nicole Austin, Nicola Risk, a Scotch Whiskey Ambassador of the Year, female. 10 years ago, think about that. 20 years ago, think about that. So these are things that we should all be celebrating and be really proud of, not just as men, but as humans. I think the direction is, we are headed in the right direction. This is a category where this change really can happen quickly, because we are like-minded, open-minded, exploratory, discovery type people already. That's what gets us into whiskey and keeps us here.
Okay, so let's go around the panel real quickly. Who should be in this Hall of Fame among women? Who are not? Let's give them some ideas to consider for the future. And Sam, I'll start with you.
Well, Helen Arthur is no longer with us, but I think Helen Arthur is someone that I would certainly put forward quickly, obviously as a writer, but as a character and a convivial, fun drinking mate. And just as a person, someone who was in the scene and welcome at distilleries. And yes, she was sometimes controversial and maybe said a few things that were inappropriate, but fucking right. Good for her. No, I miss her. It's a voice I miss. So I'd probably say Helen Arthur.
Yeah. Dave?
I'm not sure I know enough people in the industry to say that. Most of the people I hang around with are the brand ambassadors. Nicola would have had my vote because we were in the same category this year, and she would have definitely had my vote if I was allowed to vote. And so I'm just blown away that Nicola has won this year, that been awarded this global icon of whiskey. It's a fantastic achievement.
It's highly deserved. Nicola is one of my favorite people in this industry. Lou, who should be in from the American side?
Actually, I was thinking Canadian. I'm thinking of Tish Harcum.
Yeah, nice.
Tish, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she had a lot to do with that. What the hell are they calling those? The Chronicle series now?
Yeah, the Chronicle series.
And
there's also a woman, and Davin Dierkergamo is going to kill me. I'm forgetting her name. She's the head blender at Crown Royal. You know who I'm talking about, Lou?
No, I don't.
Oh, God. I am whipping on her name. I'm going to search this while you guys keep talking. Lou, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think Tish has been a powerful force in Canadian whiskey and just tends to get overlooked a lot, which I don't know how, because she's almost as loud as I am. I mean, God bless her. So that would be that. She's first on my list. I mean, Nicole's gonna be, but I wouldn't want to put her in there because I wouldn't want to, shorten her life achievement. I don't know how soon can you get in. What's
She's still too young for a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah, I agree. Wow. Other than that.
I'm thinking at some point you're going to look at Nicole Austin from the U.S.
Sure.
Maybe somebody like Lisa Wicker for what she's done at Widow Jane and at George Washington's distillery. You could look at women like Sonette Berniker Hart at Koval, Becky Harris at Catoctin Creek.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
I'd also throw in from Japan.
Joanna Scannell is the one at Crown Royal, who I'm thinking of.
There you go. If only you had an encyclopedia at your fingertips. Alas. And
Chris Radcliffe points out, is it too early for Fawn Weaver? Yes, because Uncle Nearest has only been around for a few years, but I think 15 years from now, definitely for Fawn Weaver.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. The few
And
that's what I'm saying.
Harold Joyce, Linnell Capaccio, and Linnell.
Yeah.
Definitely. Linnell could be
Yeah.
in there either. And Bill Ricker says it's kind of rude to give a Lifetime Achievement Award to someone who's early to mid-career.
Agreed.
No, agreed. Exactly.
Udo, who do you think on the women's side? Who do you think should be in from Europe and from what your experience is?
Well, my heart beats in Isla, and when I think of Isla, my first thought would be Jackie Thompson in Ardbeg, who is an absolutely passionate woman who rocks the show in Ardbeg, and also the big, I would say the big mama in Bruichladdich is my dear friend Mary McGregor. I do love that woman. She's so great, such a big-hearted woman. It's always a pleasure to meet her. And one woman I also got to know, and due to the work on this book, was the daughter of Jim McEwan, Lynn McEwan, and she has also the same passion, the same fire in her blood. When you talk to her and you close your eyes, you hear her father speaking, and she also dedicated her life to whiskey, I would say. So just without thinking much deeper, I think these three women really came in my mind, because they're so great personalities, so great characters that stand for whiskey itself, and that's wow.
And I can very easily see Jim and Lynn McEwan being the first father-daughter combination in that Hall of Fame. Dave, you're on the spot here.
Yeah, I was thinking about me and my daughter as the first father and daughter in the Whiskey Hall of Fame. Of course. Do you want to play a game?
Well, wait a second here. Harold Joyce says Barbara McEwan ought to be in there for managing Jim all these years and putting up with Jim's crap all these years.
There's a thought.
Yeah, and I could see that. And Dave also says Georgie Crawford is also a force, and definitely
Great.
Georgie for her work at Lagavulin and what she's done with Port Ellen. And I was going to say also Ann Miller from Aberlour.
Yeah,
and we've already talked about Helen Mulholland from Bushmills, Maureen Robinson. I could see Caroline, and I'm whiffing on her last name, but we just talked with Laura Hemme from Rowan Co. I could see Caroline, who's on the Diageo blending team, and I'm screwing up her last name, and I'm going to kill myself for that one. But you could see any of three of those. I could see in the future Cara Lang from Douglas Lang and Company.
Yep.
At some point, because she's going to take over more and more of the blending role from Fred and the cask picking once she gets the as their distilleries come online, the one they own now and the one they're building in Glasgow. But I think you could see those women easily in this. In the States, I think also. Go ahead.
Juliet Buchan from Glenallachie, a very passionate ambassador for that, and also a great personality.
Yeah, fun drinking partner. Amen.
Yeah, but I could easily see Ann Miller, who really has helped build the reputation for Aberlour, especially in Europe, as a logical nominee, especially also for what she's done with the Speyside Whiskey Festival, with the Spirit of Speyside.
Jesus, come on, Mark. I thought you wanted to be controversial here. Can't we all just look? We need to be careful with this, don't we? A little bit. If we start tokenizing it, it's going to be wrong.
No, I don't want to tokenize it, but
no, I know.
I'm
not saying names to talk about it.
I'm suggesting names that should be considered.
There's no shortage of names. I agree.
There's no shortage.
No. So
and Kirsten Meikle, who is still young in her career at William Grant and Sons, and hell, she may wind up running the whole company one of these days.
Yeah. So to fill those 5 spots per year that Whiskey Magazine puts in that Hall of Fame, they should always be the best, strongest contributions to our category, not just because there's a penis or an absence of a penis. So I think that's the important bit that we should remember through this. I think it's an important conversation to have. But I think the women I work with, my sister, my parents, my mother, founder of Women's Studies at the University of Toronto, would all agree. We don't want to go down the path of token rewards.
Hell no.
I know. I'm not saying you're suggesting that. It's for your listeners as well, and for the World Whiskey Awards if they hear this conversation. I think we don't want to instantly be having 5 women next year. We just need to be aware of this. We need to stop and look around and, in a meeting, stop interrupting women. All these small things that we've taken as norm for such a long time. Wake up.
Exactly. I mean, we need to look at who gets mentioned in the press releases when new releases are announced. And we need to look beyond that and see who's actually making the contributions. And there are, for instance, I got to admit, and I could be wrong about this, but I've seen a whole boatload of Crown Royal news releases about past whiskeys coming out where I never see Joanna Scardella mentioned. And she really deserves to get a lot of the credit for what they've done.
The other thing I would say that don't take away agency from the people themselves, because a lot of the women that I've worked with in the industry when I was at William Grant & Sons and also people I know at Macallan, they don't want to be in that limelight.
Right.
So we need to remember that too. Yeah. It's not just pulling women out of the shadows. That's, I think it's another thing just to be sensitive to, that everyone has their own agency and decision of their fate.
Right. But it is still appropriate to recognize them for their contributions.
Amen.
Not necessarily
100%.
dragging them into the limelight, but showing them that we respect as an industry what they've done.
Yeah, I think we do. You look at Diageo, I think more than 50% of their workforce is female, especially in production. So I think that's already been happening for 2 decades at least. So I think I'm totally on board with you, Mark. I'm just trying to make the conversation a little more provocative.
Of course. And if you look at Diageo, the last 2 presidents or CEOs of Diageo North America have been women, including the current one. And their current head of production is female as well. So, and Chris Ratcliffe says, what about female writers and presenters for whiskey content? I can think of few doing longer form content. Well, Becky Paskin is one. There are many others out there. You got to search for them. I have to search for them because I don't always find everybody. You can
Rachel
find
McCormack.
them.
Lou knows them. Lou's
Rachel McCormack
is magazine. Yeah,
I voted him. Yeah, I mean,
Maggie Kimbrell in the Kentucky
before. Liza's getting great placements. Susanna Skyver Barton at Whiskey Advocate.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think what we can do as guys coming up. What we can do as men is help lift up the women we know who are doing good stuff and doing it the right way.
Amanda
doing
Schuster,
it ethically. Amanda Schuster, hell yes.
Yep.
Karen Newman.
Oh God, yeah.
Cara, yeah.
Yeah.
Karen Newman.
Some great stuff.
Virginia Miller. I mean, there are so many out there that are doing good stuff, and you've got to search for it. So I think it's time to play a game. And Sam, Dave, you guys play games all the time on your podcast. Let's play a game.
We try and liven it up, yeah. So we did put a quick game together, or we didn't. I didn't have it. We didn't have anything to do with it. John put it all together. So yeah, we're going to play a game of Anadrams, which is something that we play regularly on the Uncorked.
I love Anadrams.
Anadrams. It's like here we go. Let's play a game. Let's share a screen, and we're going to play a game of Anadrams. So. Someone's going to let me in to share the screen. There we go. So you can all
What's
see.
the premise, Dave?
So what we're going to do, all of these.
And Chris Ratcliffe is going, please be cat puns. Please be cat puns.
All of these came up on your screens on Thursday afternoon on the Whiskey Live, Whiskey Awards and Icons of Whiskey Awards. So here's a nice, easy one for you.
Hold on, Dave. So it's a scrambled up letter, right? So everyone gets the premise. We got to make sure.
It's a scramble.
Lou, Udo, if you want to buzz in with your answer, you got to uncork a bottle because this is uncorked. So get a bottle to hand, please.
Oh.
And when you're ready to buzz in, that's the sound we're looking for. Yeah, B flat, I heard. C sharp, I think, was Mark. Very nice.
Names of
Ooh, I got a
barley
squeaker.
varietals, Dave Kuhn says.
No names of barley varietals tonight, David. No, that's another episode. We'll be doing that later on. So here we go with the first one. This is a nice, easy one for. We've got the titles underneath just to help us out because these are some of these might be a little bit difficult. So here's the first one.
Oh,
Milk
good Lord.
Glazer, Communicator of the Year. So if you think you got that one there, you pull your cork one up, and you got
I'm not even going to play.
Well, it's Mark.
Of course it is. Duh! It's Mark.
Yay!
And that's how we
Thank
go.
you, gentlemen.
Excellent. Well played. So that's just an easy one to start us off for the evening. Okay, here we go. Eyes down looking.
I got the Cascade Moon.
I didn't get the sound effects ready for this one. I'm sorry, but here we go. The next one is Potent Britain. Buyer.
I know this one, but
year.
I'm not going to buzz in.
Thank you. Let the viewers at home. Binny's, is Binny's a clue?
Indeed, it was. It is, of course. From Danny.
Yeah,
Oh, Binny.
Pontoni.
Buyer of the year. So, Brett, if
Good
you're
man.
watching, we've got lots
Wait a
of
second. Do we have anybody muted here? I'm just double checking because
it's not Millwall, is it? So, no, it's not. It's not.
okay.
The sound
Go
effects.
on.
That's for sure. Okay. So that was the buyer of the year. Well done, Brett. I know Brett, so it's lovely to see your
Brett's
people
a good
you
man.
know and friends. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of respect for
Right.
Brett.
Airline Sock. Scotch.
She's
Whiskey
watching.
Ambassador of the year. She's watching. Oh,
Airline stock. I swear she doesn't smell like one. She does not smell like an airline stock.
I wouldn't know.
Come on, play along at home, please.
Guys, in the chat rooms, answer this one. Come on.
Come on. You were watching the awards ceremony, weren't you? And you were listening.
Yes, I was. And it's Nicola Risk. Let's just acknowledge that one. Nicola.
Well done.
From the McAllen. Well done. Nicola's been a guest on the webcast before. We'll get her on again soon. But congratulations again, Nicola. You deserved honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Another pal of mine. Let's go. Ted Sloan, Campaign Innovator of the Year. Let's go.
So now we're not at an individual's name. I think this is a distillery name. Seattle Distillery.
Oh, Westland.
Well done,
Yep.
Lou. Pull the cork. Pull the cork. Good man.
Was indeed Westland. So this is one of the silly games that we often play with our guests on Uncorked. Okay, here's the next one. Silicon Tuna, Distillery Manager of the Year. It's great.
That's a cork.
Nicole Austin.
Nicole Austin. Thanks, Louise.
Yay!
We'll play with you sometime soon, we hope.
Hey, guys, I want to point this out for just a second. Louise McEwan pointed out, this is fun on here, and I want to point out that Louise very well in a few years could be considered for the Hall of Fame.
Amen.
For what she's doing at J.J. Corey and Chapelgate Whiskey in Ireland. So we were talking about that a second ago. Let's just give Louise the credit she deserves because she's done a lot of good stuff. I almost poured this one, and I'll come back to myself for just a second here because I have control. One of the whiskeys I've been sipping the last few nights, Stories and Sips, the story from J.J. Corey that she put together with Barry Chandler from Stories and Sips and the Stories and Sips community online. Love that one. I'll have my tasting notes for it soon, but I just wanted to point that out. Louise is one of those who also should be considered for the Hall of Fame. It's going.
Louise, whenever you're ready to come on Uncorked and play the game, we're ready for you. We just did an Irish episode, but there's always time to talk to an indie bottler. Let's do it.
Aye, we need that laugh as well. Okay, eyes down looking. We've got a few more to play.
Let's do this.
Distillery of the Year, Non-Bath. I love. I'm going to record
The
that.
PR firm will not be happy with us after this one.
There goes your sponsor.
They're not a sponsor.
I know. I saw. Geez, Mark, you're such a communicator.
Hey,
Why you gotta
they're
be
not
so
a sponsor.
professional?
It's okay.
Yeah.
What?
And they'll never be. The
Louise says,
non-bar.
that you got the story. I'm in. Let's make it happen. Louise, to be truthful, I paid full price for the story. I actually went on the website out in California and paid full price for this bottle. And if anybody that knows me, that's a compliment. If I pay full price for a bottle, because I got most of this whiskey, the Whiskey Fairy delivered this stuff.
Can we get back on with the quiz? Come on, please.
Yes. Yes, dear. Go ahead.
What is this? A whiskey podcast?
It was indeed Brown Foreman. If anyone of you got that, come on, play along.
You forgot the hyphen, Dave.
Sorry.
You forgot the hyphen in Brown Foreman.
And we forgot it in non-barf as well, I think. Non-barf.
Non-barf.
It would have worked.
We left it out on Non-Bath, and we left it out on Brown Foreman. So
We just got editor
You're
approval.
consistent.
That's the copy editor in me, guys. That's why I got Communicator of the Year. I care about copy. I mean, microphone on, no, but copy, yes.
come on, let's go. We've got a couple more, I'm sure. Okay, Boris Incorruptible Hour, world's best corn. Boris's Incorruptible Hour.
I know this one because I watched, but I'm going to let you guys try to get this one.
Corn, yeah, which one was the corn? I know the wheat. Boris's Incorruptible Hour. Oh, we get that one.
Guys,
It's a weird one, though.
Republic Hubris.
It was Iron Root. You're dead right. I remembered now. Yeah, I couldn't see it, but
nice.
Iron Root. You're dead right. Iron Root Republic.
Wow.
Texas Hubris. Well
Which
played.
I've tasted and is really good.
Excellent. Well, let's hope so. It's the world's best corn.
Well, it was either that or Georgia Moon.
Okay, the world's best blended malt.
I'm kidding, of course.
All haircuts. Gives all haircuts. The world's best of blended malt.
Oh my
I
gosh.
wrote
Play
these and I
it
can't
home,
remember.
people. Come on. We need some answers from home.
Aye.
Well, it's not compass box hedonism.
No.
It's definitely not. No.
And it's not Jane Walker.
Blended
It's
malt.
mass product. No, it's not Monkey Shoulder. There's a G. in
It's
it.
not
Come on.
Monkey Shoulder.
Wake up. Wake up. There's a G in it. It's
Not from Gervin.
It's got to be Shivas.
Oh, CH.
I-
Yeah, good job, Dave.
You
It's
got
the one that's
three.
called like Ultima
Oh.
or something.
Altus.
Oh,
Chivas Brothers Altus.
Shivas.
Ooh.
There we go.
Just Regal
Altus, it was indeed.
Well
Is there any
done.
more?
Okay.
I don't know how many we've done, but let's have a look. Okay, Lord's seatbelt trip. The world's
I'm
best.
staying out of this one because they're
cocktail.
a sponsor.
Oh, there we go.
This one's tricky because it looks like the word pot still is in.
There
Yeah.
definitely had to be in there because you
That's
couldn't
something
make an anagram out of red.
But there's no numbers in it, so
Ah,
It was indeed. Of course, it was. It was WhiskyCast, one of the key sponsors here. The Redbreast Pot Still, 21-year-old, the world's best pot still, and
Gorgeous
congratulations
whiskey.
to them.
Gorgeous whiskey.
Absolutely, all of the Redbreast Pot Still whiskeys are pretty damn sexy. And that's all, geeks. Thank you very much indeed.
that was fun, Dave. Thanks for putting that together, guys.
Thanks for
So
playing
we have
along with us.
basically wasted over an hour and a half of your time tonight, guys, and everyone watching.
Hardly wasted.
Well,
There's
let's
got to be
put it in
another word.
perspective. I mean, the first minute and a half was no audio at all because I screwed up.
Frittered. How about frittered? Is frittered good?
Frittered away, yeah.
I like frittered away. That's good.
That's a nice Americanism.
Yeah.
So, hey, you guys are going to love who's coming on the webcast next week. April 2nd, we're doing our next webcast on Friday night, happy hour. April 3rd is this man's 60th anniversary in the whiskey business. Dennis Malcolm from Glen Grant will be our guest next week.
Wow.
Fabulous.
Nice.
And Dennis has forgotten more about whiskey than most people know, including me. So that's going to be a fun interview. Dennis is one of the nicest guys in whiskey, and he will be joining us next week to celebrate his 60th anniversary on the eve of his actual 60th anniversary, April 3rd. So, guys, thank you for doing this. Udo Sonntag, A Journeyman's Journey is coming out April 8th in German.
Congratulations, Udo.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
And sometime in May in English, Lew Bryson, whatever you're working on, let us know about it. We'll be glad to talk about it. Plus, the webcasts on Tuesdays. Sam and Dave from Master of Malt, Adam Brands of the Uncorked Whisky Sessions podcast. Who's the next guest?
Oh, geez, what was the plan there? Oh, we discovered recently that people have dropped the term craft for artisanal. And I think that's hilarious, especially in the U.S. So we want to unpack that. So we're bringing some friends on. They're not just confirmed yet, so I don't want to say too much. But yeah, we want to get people to debate that out and try to make sense of the nonsense that is just well-made.
That is a conversation I'd love to hear.
Well, Lou, we might have to invite you then, bud. If only you were a woman. We're over-indexed on white men with beards, I'm afraid.
I ain't trimming just for that. Forget it.
And all of us have glasses tonight, too, so let's not forget that.
Oh, so we're disabled.
And Harold Joyce asks, anything in the whiskey cast library on Waterford? Oh, yeah. Go back to last spring sometime, I think May or April. We've got Mark Rainier talking for the better part of an hour and a half on Waterford. So go check that out. David Owen, have a great weekend, everyone. Shame we can't make it next week. Cheers, Mark, guests, and geeks in the chat. And Daryl Joyce is asking, can we pre-order that book on McEwan?
Yes, you can. Just
absolutely.
Check out jimsbiography.com, and there you can pre-order it instantly.
And do order it in German because it's best in the original German.
No, you can pre-order it in English. You can buy it in German, and you can pre-order it in English.
Hey, Udo, I want to know, how the hell did you translate Gaelic into German back into English?
You need a little helper.
There you go. Always help.
Where is the after party?
Yes, Sam's asking about the after party, and the after party is there is no after party because it's late your time, it's still early my time, and I have to go help trim the dog's eyebrows so that he can see.
I got shit to do, so
didn't know where that was going. Mark.
Stuff to do. And Sam's got kids to wake up and feed sugar to. So, Sam, I can't wait to.
good time.
Sam, I can't wait till about 10 years or so from now when your girls are at the age where my girls were a few years ago, where the boys start trolling around. I can't wait to see what you're going to do because I know what I did to the little bastards.
Yeah, well, it's nice you care about me so much that you look forward to my future suffering.
No, I look forward to seeing what you're going to do to them.
I'm a gentleman. I will examine them carefully and then murder them.
Yeah, I always said I was going to take the head of the first one and put it on a pike outside the front door as a warning to all others who might follow.
That's a good. I have to tell you, but the girls are strong and strong-minded and smart. They'll take care of themselves. They will keep the boys in check.
My two girls have kicked the boys' asses. Yeah,
absolutely.
Two girls. They can kick the boys' asses just as hard.
And we lost Lou for some reason. So, hey guys, thanks for doing this.
Mark,
Thanks for your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget Dennis Malcolm next week at 5 o'clock New York time. Since the UK and most other places start changing to summertime this weekend, we will be at 2100 GMT still. Check the time zone in your area for the right time to join us for the next webcast. We'll have the podcast up this weekend. Until we meet again, I'm Mark Gillespie. Good night, all.
Good night, sweetheart.
Good night.